Hey everyone, and welcome to Theories and Thrones. Today we're talking all about episode 5 of Game of Thrones' final season, The Bells. I'm Leanne Aguilera from Entertainment Tonight.
And I'm Mike Rougeau from Gamespot. We're excited to start hearing about all of your fiery thoughts on last night's episode because we have a ton.
Yes.
We have so much to discuss.
Tell us if you're burning with rage, just like Dany. As always, before we get started, this is an after show, so you shouldn't be here unless you've watched the episode, because we're after the show, because we're getting into spoilers.
All the spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
And there's so many.
So many.
Finally.
So many. Finally. I'm so excited that we actually have so much to discuss right now. What did you guys think? We're going to be discussing all the deaths. Thankfully, there were a lot this time. That sounds really morbid.
It sounds so morbid.
But I was really excited to see so many big characters die. Plus, we're going to be sharing an exclusive interview with the stars, revealing how they really feel about their on-screen fate. Mike, how did you feel about this episode?
I want to hear everybody's thoughts for sure, but for me personally, I thought that this episode would have been a 10 out of 10. It was an incredible spectacle. It was well directed. It was brutal and dark and terrifying. If
there's a big if there.
This is if it had been preceded by 2 seasons or even 3 seasons of like the Game of Thrones that we used to have, that's well written and they built up to these moments properly, it would have been incredible. As it is, to me, it didn't feel earned, and we're going to talk about a lot of it.
As an episode as a whole, I enjoyed watching it. I loved that I could see all the battles. So shout out to Jon for saying, actually, we're going to attack at dawn.
Yeah.
Instead of in the middle of the night, like
the real hero of the episode.
The real hero of King's Landing. We're already starting to get in so many of your comments. Christy Cease says, what is the point of Jaime's arc if he wasn't going to find some kind of redemption?
We're gonna get into
that. Emma N says, I predict that Jon will be the one to kill Dany after everything he's seen and everything she's done.
I have some theories about that too.
We have a lot of theories about that. But so why don't we dive into the biggest question of the episode, which is, who died? Who died?
Everyone.
Everyone.
These were the deaths that I wanted.
Yes.
In episode 3, because this felt like a battle with stakes.
Kicking us off, Lord Varys. Oh, Varys, you little spider of Westeros, you thought that you could keep creeping around.
The Master of Whispers, he was pretty loud about his like big old treason that he was doing. Like Varys went around the last 2 episodes being like, I'm thinking about doing some treason. Do you want to hear about it?
Do you want to hear about my treason?
It was very un-Varys-like, but I think that this show is at its best when bad decisions have consequences, and his bad decision had consequences.
I loved the brief interaction that we had between Tyrion and Varys before he died, where Tyrion owned up to it and it was like, hey, it was me that sentenced you to die and kind of tipped this off to the queen, but to be fair, I warned you.
Yeah, and it turns even more bittersweet when we realize by the end of the episode that Varys was right.
Of course Varys was right.
And all these little things, compound to cause Dany to do what she did.
Exactly.
You can't point to any one thing, but Varys betraying her definitely added to it.
Yeah.
It's like a self-fulfilling.
Exactly.
It was a very satisfying death.
Which led to then Dany going crazy, and then we need to say R.I.P. to the hundreds of thousands of citizens of King's Landing who are now dead.
Our next death is the city of King's Landing and most of the people who live there.
Exactly.
It seems like, this was brutal, and I think the smartest thing they did is to have us on the ground in King's Landing, not just with Jon, who's in the thick of battle, but with Arya eventually.
It was so great to see that even though she's this great assassin, she's been beat, she's been battered. It's hard to escape the destruction as like Jon is trying to get through it all.
Yeah.
It's terrifying, and you really got to see the firsthand experience of what it's like having a dragon attack your hometown.
It was so effectively shot and edited and put together. And as much as like in episode 3, her portions of that episode felt like a horror movie, right? Where she was sneaking around. And as much as that didn't work for me, her parts of this episode being a disaster film did work for me, where there's destruction all around her and all she's trying to do is survive, maybe help a few other people survive, which she failed at, and it was gruesome.
Let's talk about someone who didn't survive, and that's Euron Greyjoy.
Thank God.
Thank God he is gone. Okay, let's talk about the fact that he noped off his boat, just like Theon did a couple seasons ago.
The plot armor remains so thick.
And he just so happened to wash up on the secret shores of King's Landing as Jaime Lannister was there.
Exactly where Jaime is. It's way too convenient.
Yeah.
It is poetic.
Yes.
It's cinematic.
Yes.
And overall, I was just happy to see him get get stabbed through the spine.
The fact that Euron, yes, and that cued it up perfectly. The fact that Euron kept trying to refer to himself as a king was so obnoxious
on
to
what
me.
grounds?
On what
yeah,
grounds?
and since when? This is not a thing that, like, is he the king of the Iron Islands still? No, because he bent the knee to Cersei, right? So I don't know. It was glimmers of Book Euron,
exactly.
who's a very different character.
And here he's just a homicidal maniac who loves to laugh really loud. But hey, we'll get back to it.
And he slept with the queen, and he made sure that we knew it.
Of course.
Okay, dude.
We didn't hear the end
if
of it.
that's what matters to you.
What matters to Mike was seeing Clegane Bowl. But we've got to say that in the middle of Clegane Bowl, that means that it led to the death of the Hound and the Mountain. So R.I.P. these brothers.
And Qyburn, let's not forget.
Sorry,
I mean, I know that we did
Qyburn.
forget about Qyburn.
But at the same time, like, bye Qyburn.
I enjoyed their death a lot, and we are going to talk about Clegane Bowl
we're going to be fully breaking down Clegane Bowl, but let's talk about it a little bit right now.
Yeah.
We see these brothers go off with each other. We see the Mountain without his helmet on.
It was such a good scene.
Yeah.
I loved it, and it was more importantly, it was a good death for both of them because the Mountain deserved it, obviously.
Yeah.
But then for the Hound, like,
to take him down.
And sacrificing himself and falling into this, storm of fire is it's such a good finality for him. And not that he's overcome his fear of fire, but he's accepted his fate.
Yeah. I have more thoughts on this, but we will come back to it when we talk about Clegane Bowl.
Definitely.
Next up, we have to say R.I.P. to the sister and brother who loved each other the most. Jaime and Cersei.
That just made my skin crawl a little bit.
Man, we got to talk about the fact that Jaime, I was expecting so much more from this death, and I know that a lot of fans were really upset to see Cersei get such a kind death.
Anissa Abraham says Cersei should have had a more brutal death. Dany should have Dracarys'd her ass, and I agree.
I would have loved to have seen it was Dany be the one to take down Cersei. It seemed like by the end Cersei was so defeated, and then to be taken out by this storm of rubble as she's in her brother's arms. Does that count as Jaime killing her?
Right. So this we've talked about it. It kind of in a way, like Game of Thrones is very good at presenting us a prophecy or a prediction and fulfilling it in some unexpected way or in a way that can be interpreted in multiple different ways. And so in a way, the Valonqar, the little brother theory, Jaime led her down there to her death, and it was at Tyrion's behest, right? Tyrion sent them down there. So in a way, they were both responsible, although, as we did not predict, neither of them actually meant to. But I felt like this series has given us so many good deaths of villains, like Tywin dying on the toilet in the most undignified way possible.
I love that death.
Joffrey choking to death at his own wedding. Like, those moments felt so cathartic.
And so satisfying.
I thought it was disappointing, but also kind of fitting that we didn't get that death for Cersei.
One of the things that I did love about Cersei's death is I read a comment where it's like she was crushed by all of the choices that she made that led her to this point.
Yeah.
She did everything to fight for the survival of her house and did everything to fight for the survival of her relationship with her brother/lover. And the fact that they died in each other's arms, as weird as it is, I'm not too mad at it. A lot of the fans might not be too pleased with Jaime's death.
Yeah, what about Jaime? So what do you think about the way that he ultimately backslid and kind of became this?
I like it because for me, it goes back to, obviously you want a good character arc, but it goes back to people don't change.
Yeah, it felt realistic.
It felt very realistic. It doesn't feel like that hero's arc that everyone wanted, where he did have a great overcoming of the name Kingslayer and really proved that he was a good guy.
He did redeem himself quite a bit throughout the course of the series, and that's why people are upset, right? Is that ultimately his character growth meant nothing for his ultimate fate.
Yeah.
For his ending, he backslid and he went back to his sister and died with her. And I fully understand why I'm disappointed in that.
Yeah. For
sure. I don't think that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I think that it does make sense. The problem for me is that it's just so cynical. It's this cynical, nihilistic worldview and it fits with Dany too, that you can't escape your worst instincts and the worst parts of your family and yourself, and like that sucks. I get it, but it sucks.
You might not be too happy with Jaime's death, and the fans might not be too happy, but guess who is happy? Actor Nikolaj CosterWaldau.
I guess.
He was quite happy with Jaime's fate. Take a look at what he told me when I sat down with him at the junket.
Felt very true to the show and to the character, so I was happy.
If I win, I'll bring your head to Cersei so you can kiss her one last time.
So what was your initial reaction when you read your last script?
I can say something. I can say I was very excited. I'm very happy for the way that my character is gonna end up on Game of Thrones. I got introduced a little bit later in season 6. So I was like, why would you introduce a character in season 6 and then kill him in season 7 or beginning of season 8? So I'm very happy.
But I got you.
I'm the man who killed Jaime Lannister.
Talk to me about your reaction when you read the script for your final episode.
I was really pleased with that.
Just look at me. Nothing else matters. Only us.
I mean, I thought they did an amazing job overall with the whole season, but with Jaime also, I just really, it made sense, and it was very felt very true to the show and to the character, so I was happy. Felt very true to the
death is all gone. Let's keep the conversation going with the other big moments of the episode with OMG GOT, which is my favorite segment of it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
First up, Mike's favorite moment, Clegane Bowl.
The hype was real. I've had a lot of complaints this season, as anybody who's been watching this show, knows. But
You're so excited. I love this so much right now.
It was so, a friend of mine made these and brought them over, and we had a bunch of people over and watched it.
Yeah.
And it's the most fun I've had watching Game of Thrones in years.
Yes.
And I can't imagine this going down in a more perfect way.
What did you think about the fact that the Mountain went back to his classic move of squishing the life out of his eyeballs?
Yeah, and dashing people's brains against walls.
Yeah.
Like when he killed Qyburn, if there was any doubt about whether the Mountain is still the Mountain, that was dashed, along with Qyburn's face, because that's his classic move that he does to, babies during Robert's Rebellion. That's the move, and so he dashes Qyburn's head, and that was when the hype became real, and we just started yelling and cheering, and it was, what did you think?
The fact that he kept stabbing him over and over again, I was like, there's got to be a weakness. And then I thought when he finally got him in the head, I'm like, oh, it's like Walking Dead. You just got to get him once in the head and then they're done. But no, he kept pushing. So if it wasn't the Lord of Light that brought the Mountain back, I don't know what the heck Qyburn was doing and how he actually pulled this off. But he was just like...
It'll probably never get answered.
No, and that's one of the things that bothers me. I liked Clegane Bowl, but the whole time I was just thinking, I'm like, dear God, when is he actually going to die? He was like the Energizer Bunny from hell.
That's fair, and there's a question to be asked about, did the Mountain have a weakness? Was it fire, right? Was it dragonglass? Is he the same rules as the White Walkers and the Whites?
He stabbed a thing through his eye, and then how is he still moving? How is he not lobotomized?
It not only did it look like a video game boss fight, it looked like Resident Evil or like a Mortal Kombat cutscene to me, but also it apparently played by the same rules, because you can shoot video game bosses in the head and it usually doesn't kill them. But just the two of them standing there on that staircase, I'm gonna keep this on, by the way.
Yeah.
Just the two of them standing there on that staircase with the city in the background, Drogon flying by, spewing fire.
Intercutting between Arya being on the ground as well. Yeah. It was 10 out of 10.
I loved it.
Would watch it again.
It lived up to the hype.
Let's put it this way. It was way more entertaining than this year's Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So there's
it was more entertaining
that.
than a lot of things.
There's that.
I think that was the best scene since the Sept of Baelor explosion in season 6.
Big words, but I like it. One of the things that I'm not quite sure if I liked, moving on, is let's meet Mad Queen Dany.
Yeah.
Because sure, she's officially lost it, and yes, this has been foreshadowed. Yes, we know her family history, but the bells are ringing. She clearly is hearing them. She knows that the city has surrendered. and she just goes full on Drogon attack.
Yeah, so this is the main reason why this episode doesn't work for me.
Okay.
And
she's looking at her home.
Yeah. So David and Dan said, the showrunner said in the
inside the episode,
the post episode, featurette, this is the moment she looks at the Red Keep, which her family built 300 years ago, represents everything that was taken away from her. And this is the moment when they said it gets personal for her.
It's been personal this whole time.
I call BS on that. If it was personal, she would have flown to the Red Keep and she would have roasted Cersei alive.
Yeah.
It's not personal for her to go street by street through King's Landing and murder 100,000 innocent people.
I felt like it was like Google Maps just lighting up the way of being like, here's a street over here and here's a street over here. I felt terribly for these citizens because we actually got to see their fear. We got to see that there is nothing you can do. It was so effective. Yeah. I get that she snapped, and I get that she was so upset that Cersei killed Missandei last episode, and she's trying to prove to them that I'm not the ruthless one, it's your queen who is. But if you see from Tyrion's face, he's like, what on earth are you doing?
Right. I mean, I get that she snapped. I don't get why she snapped. Jorah died, Missandei died. A couple of her dragons died. Jon, has a better claim, and she feels insecure about that. But like the Mad King Aerys, her father, who the comparison has been made endlessly. They always say when a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin, but no one ever said they flip a switch.
Yes.
Like the Mad King went mad over many years and was initially, early in his reign, was a kind, generous ruler.
You could counter that Dany has been going mad this whole time as it's been leading her more and more to this point.
Yeah, I
totally get what you're saying, and it's hard to do the juxtaposition of her dad when we didn't really see his reign. We just have heard of it, and the book readers, of course, know that a little bit more. But my whole thing with Dany is, why all the innocent people? If you're so pissed at Cersei, fly directly to the Red Keep. You've already destroyed the Scorpions.
Kill the soldiers who surrendered. That would be evil enough.
Yes.
Right? But that would make sense. These are the people who stood against her. These bystanders have nothing to do with it, and they're just in 2 truncated, shortened seasons.
Yeah.
There just has not been enough build-up to turn her from the breaker of chains, the freer of slaves, the mother to the small folk and the common people, into this absolute genocidal maniac who's killing hundreds of thousands of people for no purpose.
And Lordsby completely agrees with you. They write, why kill all those innocent people? Ugh, so mad. I liked her in the beginning of Game of Thrones, but stopped liking her when she got obsessed with wanting power. And Christy C. also said, Dany wants vengeance for Missandei, Rhaegal, etc. It's not insanity, but recklessness and revenge.
I think if she wanted vengeance, she knew where to fly. She could have. She was looking at the Red Keep. She knew where Cersei was. The entire time,
just go directly there.
The people responsible for this are there, and she's not an idiot. She knows that. I don't think it's vengeance. I think I think the show is trying to sell it as insanity because something snaps.
Yeah.
And it's insane for her to burn King's Landing to the ground, street by street, just zigzag for an hour, and it was hard to watch.
Dany may be mad, but you know what? Arya's pissed. Because let's bring it into our next section,
Excellent
which is
transition.
Arya super pissed? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, she is. This was, and I'm going to go on my little rant right now.
Please.
This was my favorite moment of the episode. As difficult as it was, and as tedious in almost a way of every time Arya kept getting knocked down, it was so important to see her be in the midst of these streets, see her having the fire rain down on her when we almost lost her that one time when she jumped around the corner.
Yeah.
Watching through her eyes as she realizes all of the destruction and the chaos that Dany has caused, it has just further cemented it in her mind that this is not the person who needs to lead them.
Yeah.
Jon would never do this. And as much as I'm not like, let's go Team Jon, at this point, okay.
Right. Jon's been pretty incompetent, but he has not done a genocide yet that we know of.
Exactly.
Inzaghi 50 says the scenes at the end with Arya were a wonderful throwback to the scared little girl in King's Landing after Ned's execution. I think that's a really good point.
And you and I were talking about this before we got started. It was so refreshing to see when Arya went there, she was gonna kill Cersei. She was determined. She's got her assassin knowledge. And as soon as the world starts crumbling around her, it takes Sandor to look at her and be like, you don't have to do this.
It was such a good moment, and
yeah,
she chose life, and I think
she chose to not do that.
I think as nihilistic and cynical as most of this episode, and it's the second to last episode. So most of this episode, and thus most of the series, the theme seems to be, it's human nature, this descent into chaos and succumbing to our worst instincts and our worst traits as people. And she has become the one character because she swung so far in the other direction.
Yeah.
Her story got so dark, and she just became this unfeeling agent of murder.
Yeah.
And she has now come back to the light. It's like she snapped out of it.
It's like she had to see all this death and destruction, which she used to relish in. But seeing that even though she's this amazing assassin, that she was able to get knocked down so many times, it just was a good dose of reality that I think that she really needed.
And I think her coming back to the light and realizing that she would rather live than get her revenge, which is ultimately petty. I mean, Cersei's going to die regardless of whether you're there. And this goes back to the theories, right, of what is Arya going to do next?
Yeah. Well, why don't we take a look at the trailer for the series finale of Game of Thrones, which gives us a little bit of a tease.
Hint.
I know. Let's take a look. Side note, how are there so many Unsullied soldiers in Dothraki left?
I do not understand.
Where have they been?
The stakes of various battles and events and the logistics of how all these armies are still apparently so populated. I thought the Dothraki light went out, but there you go. I don't understand the continuity of how many forces anyone has. I don't think we're supposed to. I think it doesn't matter at this point.
I think the only thing that we were supposed to see in that trailer is that Arya is not pleased.
I think it's a loss that we don't get those logistics anymore in this show, and it's one of the casualties of getting these truncated seasons.
It reminds me of like time travel in the show. They're just like, just don't think about it too much. I'm like, I think about it a lot. Kenzie Kane says, Arya won't kill Dany. The showrunners love Jon too much not to let him do it since he didn't get the Night King. I completely agree with you, Kenzie. I understand that some people, like Mike, would say that it fulfills the prophecy of the green eyes.
Yeah. To me, like the Melisandre, like brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes thing is like a very obvious prediction in retrospect. And it's the kind of thing that I think they have put so much focus on it that they'll probably pay it off. I also think that it's a beautiful fulfillment of Arya's character arc, because everybody think about the names on her list up until this point, right? Gregor and Cersei, yes, they're evil, they're bad guys.
Joffrey
we want her to kill them.
Yeah,
Joffrey.
Exactly.
Okay, but not everybody on that list was evil, right? Melisandre,
they were the people who betrayed her.
Dondarrion, the Hound. These were petty vendettas, and she didn't care about who was good and who was bad. And if she kills Dany in the next episode, it's not because of a personal vendetta. She doesn't really have any personal stake in this. It will be for the greater good because she saw the destruction firsthand, and she'll know that it's the right thing to do. So it would be the first time that she used her powers for something other than a personal vendetta, and I think it would be good.
Would I like Arya to do it? Yes. Do I think that we'll get to give her, like, it's like collecting Pokemon cards. Is she going to get to have two of the biggest ones?
She gets another kill.
Yeah, if she gets another giant kill. She got the Night King, and I think working backwards, the showrunners had said inside the episode, we had it planned like 3 years ago that Arya was going to kill the Night King because it's unexpected.
Right.
And the expected thing was to have Jon be the one to kill the Night King. So I think that they wanted to save Jon killing Dany. And so they're like, okay, well, now who's going to kill the Night King? Because that person can't have two. I'm not sure.
I mean, if Dany even dies, like,
it's
definitely not guaranteed. I mean, there's a version of this where she executes Tyrion and Jon next episode, and
I mean, which leads us to our next question. Or actually, no, we're going to go into our graphics of questions, comments, and theories from you guys as we fully dive into all of this. The first question that we have is, what is Jon going to do next? Because that's exactly what we need to start talking about. What is Jon going to do?
Yeah, I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
And that's like, I know it's still Game of Thrones because I still don't really have any idea what's going to happen. I have
Which
theories.
is nice.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Let's talk about the scene before all of this chaos and fire and blood was spilled, when Jon and Dany were having their last fireside incestual love sesh.
Their little makeout sesh.
Yeah, and I will point out that Jon is the one that pulled away first because it's clear that he cannot get over the fact that that's his aunt. But she was furious with him for telling Sansa. But let's be real, like, he's not going to not tell them. So
I don't know.
The fact that
I
she
mean,
ever thought that that was a perfect situation is beyond me.
Again, it's like these small decisions that have compounded sort of to turn her. And I do think that it was rushed and that she turned too evil too quickly. But there are so many moments over the past, 5 episodes that we can point to that are just like this, where Jon has perfectly valid reasons for why he's acting the way he's acting and why he's doing this, why he rejects her, why he can't, love her, even though she is his queen. And this is one of the things that sets her on this path. What I wish is that we had actually heard in Jon's own words why, like, this is what's missing from the books, right? Where the books are characters' perspectives. We get in their heads, we understand what they're thinking and feeling. I don't understand, like, is it really as simple as Jon is just grossed out by incest?
No,
because
of course it's not
I don't
that
know.
simple.
Like, I've made this point before, but it wasn't that long ago in the show's history. It was less than 2 decades ago that Aerys Targaryen was king. He was married to his sister, and that was just
how the Targaryens did it.
It was just pretty much accepted.
Yeah.
And what I feel the pivotal scene that has been missing from Jon and Dany's story is a conversation where they sit down and they go, look, Targaryens have traditionally married within their own family. This would make sense. And then Jon has to go, I can't accept it because we've only heard from other characters.
Maybe we'll get that in the finale, because we see that Tyrion is the one who has, just like you, really been pushing the fact that these two people should rule together, that he is the ice that will balance out her fire and maybe can rein her in. But at this point, I'm worried that Dany has gone too far. That
she's absolutely gone too far
Of course, but I'm worried that, like, they've expressed their I love yous, but I don't think he can love her through this. I don't think that they still have that chance, and I think she's going to look at him and be like, fine. We have a comment from Arena Black who says, Jon realized his mistake too late. I mean, fair.
Yeah.
The whole situation is just chaotic, and I have no idea what's going to happen in the series finale, but that's what actually makes me excited.
Yeah, and it's good. Like, he realized his mistake too late, and there were horrifying, tragic consequences, and that's the Game of Thrones that I love.
Yeah.
It's sad. It messes me up inside, but.
Any last thoughts as we finish talking about this episode and as we go into the series finale?
Well, Arena Black asks, will Dany execute Sansa for treason? I think if Dany gets the chance, she certainly will.
I mean, at this point, she's just going to blink and end up back in Winterfell real quickly, so.
I mean, she can fly there on her dragon in half an hour, apparently.
That's true.
I think if Dany gets a chance, she'll execute anyone at this point.
At this point, I've been saying it this whole time in my head, Sansa for the Iron Throne. Sansa for the Iron Throne. Like, I mean, that's who I'm voting for.
There's a real possibility that even if they kill Dany, that Jon, doesn't make the obvious choice. Jon just walks away. Maybe he goes and lives up north with Tormund and Ghost.
I am curious to know. Too soon.
Reunited.
Too soon. He's not going to get those pets. Which led me, though, to my last thought, which is, do you think we're going to see Sam again? Do you think we're going to see Tormund? Do you think we're going to see Brienne?
Maybe.
Tormund, I don't know. I think his goodbye was pretty final.
Tormund, I think, is gone. What about Bran? Oh. Do you think? I mean, like, Bran had nothing to do ultimately,
Bran did nothing.
His character arc and the purpose of Bran is one of the great losses of the show because they totally dropped the ball.
I would love if there was a big mic drop moment where Bran reveals something in his weird little ominous voice that ties all of this together.
Could Bran not have warned them about this? Bran can see the future. Bran knows what's going to happen.
Bran spends most of his time in the past, though.
Oh my God, he really didn't care. He could not muster the energy to care about hundreds of thousands of people getting melted.
No.
Come on, dude.
He could not.
It made him too powerful. It's like in Harry Potter when they introduce time travel, and then in book 5 or whatever, they have to have all of the time turners destroyed, or else it ruins the entire series. It's like Bran was too powerful. Bran is the time turner of Game of Thrones.
You and I are going to talk about Harry Potter when we're done with this, because if you've seen the play in London, we have a lot to talk about. Okay, guys, we're going to end it there. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and I'm so excited to tell you that you need to join us for a super special Theories and Thrones immediately after the Game of Thrones series finale on Sunday, May 19th.
I'm excited that we don't have to get up as early next
I'm excited too.
But we are going to be hopped up on adrenaline and lots of coffee.
Yes.
Even though it's Sunday night, this is just how we roll now.
Yes.
We'd love for you to join us as we break down the final episode of Game of Thrones. And as always, we're going to include your comments, your thoughts, and your theories.
As soon as you're done watching the episode, come to ET's YouTube page. We're going to be breaking it all down. We cannot wait to hear what you all have to think. You can tweet us your thoughts anytime you'd like. Thanks again for watching Theories and Thrones. We'll see you Sunday night. Bye, guys.
Bye.